I was just making a bad joke. But do you want to talk about that song a little bit?
Sure. Basically, it's about me standing over the body of my girlfriend who has just killed herself. And the speaking voice in the song is the voice of the devil speaking to me over my shoulder, trying to convince me to take my own life as well so that I can still be with her in the afterlife. Some pretty spooky shit, but it was time for me to go there with that subject matter. It's actually based on a true story, and something that happened to me when I was 15, 16 years old, and something I just wasn't really ready or willing to deal with, at least on a public level, until now. But you reach a certain, state of mind, you get a little older, you come to terms with certain things, and, I felt that it was ready. I was ready to tell the story, so.
What actually happened back then?
I was going to parochial boarding school at the time and was at home on leave for spring break, and I went out with a buddy of mine across the street with him and his girlfriend and her girlfriend's friend. And it was her girlfriend's friend that I ended up hooking up with. I was maybe 14, 15 years old, and she was 18 and a freshman at Northwestern University, black hair, green eyes, lingerie model, gorgeous. And I was, completely over. She was a drug addict of several different types, including heroin, and she had always had an issue with it and got me involved with it a little bit at one point in time. And then I got to the point where I pretty much made her swear off the stuff, and she became codependent on me. I became her replacement for the drugs, and she started getting crazy. My parents weren't aware of the relationship. This is a non-Jewish girl. I'm still, quote-unquote, a religious boy growing up in a religious household. And she starts calling the house at different times of the day, trying to get my parents, trying to bust me out. When I started getting freaked out about it and worried about it, she sent some friends of hers over to my house to kick my ass because, claiming that I had abused her in some way when these were friends who had become friends of mine. Ironically enough, they're like, you didn't really do anything that she's saying, did you? I'm like, no. Like little things like that would threaten to call the police and say that I had stuff in the house. I mean, all kinds of stuff. And eventually when I broke it off with her, that's when she really went off the deep end. And she started dating the guy who was my best friend at the time, much to my chagrin. And I came back the following year. Again, I was away at school in Los Angeles. And no, I'm sorry, this was before then. So was it Skokie? Sugar, Los Angeles? Yeah, it would have to have been Los Angeles. So I was in LA, came back for spring break again. I ran into her at some party. Anytime I tried to get on the phone with her in the past, she immediately went into hysterics and didn't let me get in a word edgewise and saying, David, I love you, I don't want to be without you, I can't live without you, yada, yada. So then, like I said, I ran into her at some party. She went into immediate hysterics and ran out, apparently ran back to her dormitory. Then I get a call the following morning from my quote-unquote ex-best friend who's telling me that she died along the way to the hospital, that she left the dormitory in a fit and a rage, and they ended up finding her in the corner of some club with a syringe still in her arm. And he did me the honor, of course, of telling me that on the way to the hospital, all she did was ask for me. And that she was saying that she didn't want to live anymore because I wouldn't be with her anymore, and so on and so forth. I went to the funeral, and her father lashed out at me publicly in front of everyone, saying it was my fault, that I should have said something to them, and so on and so forth. So, here, hold on a second. There's a cop here. There we go. That's the cop.
Okay.
And that, I started having nightmares for years afterwards. tremendous amount of guilt. And, it was just a horrible, horrible experience. And, you'd be surprised the places that your mind takes you when you are in that level of a state of depression. So it's pretty much what that's about.
Yeah, that would be a lot to cope with, as an adult. You were a teenager when this went down.
Yeah. Yeah, it was rough.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It definitely threw me into a further downward spiral. From then on, I continued to use and abuse until I was 18. I think it was just I woke up underneath a Cutlass, a 72 Cutlass, an Oldsmobile, New Year's Day, my 18th year of life, in the middle of downtown Chicago, without my shirt, without shoes, without wallet, just wearing a pair of jeans. Thankfully, I knew a buddy of mine that lived a couple blocks away, was able to make my way to and stumble my way to his door and collapse once I got there. Didn't leave there for 3 days. That was pretty much the last day that I touched anything serious drug-wise in my life. But that was kind of like the thing, one of those defining moments in my teenage years that definitely helped fuck me up significantly. Put it that way.
How bad did your drug use get? I mean, was it to the point where were there near-death experiences? Were there overdoses, or was it more?
It never got to the point of overdose because my resistance to just about everything, ever since I was a little boy, before I'd ever even put a single substance in my body, is pretty ridiculous. So it never got to that level. But when you wake up underneath the car New Year's Day in Chicago, meaning that it was probably 20 degrees, 30 degrees out, no shoes, no socks, no wallet, no shirt, freezing to death, wondering how you got there. That's about as close to death as I wanted to get at that particular point in time. That was enough of a wake-up call for me. And then I went 7 years without doing anything at all. Cut everything cold turkey and just left everything alone. And since then, the only things I've touched have been a little bit of liquor and a little bit of weed, and that's all I really mess with these days.
The other song that's been released from Indestructible, of course, is Perfect Insanity. Can you talk a little bit about that one as well?
That one's more of like a tongue-in-cheek kind of a tune. It's not, I'm not really saying that I'm insane, but it's toying with the idea of insanity and coming at you from the perspective of the individual who is and who's kind of, painting this picture and warning people around him, particularly his love interest, about his psychotic tendencies, so to speak.
What other kind of themes are you addressing on Indestructible? Are there? I mean, you mentioned the things that you've gone through over the past few years, but is that manifested itself a lot in these songs?
On different levels. I mean, the title track obviously is kind of self-explanatory in terms of that it is an anthem for the troops, and it is a song to make people feel strong and strip them of their fear. I mean, that's pretty much what the entirety of this record is about. This is a soundtrack for strength. It is a soundtrack to make you feel indestructible, make you feel invincible, make you feel like you can run through a brick wall. That's the unifying factor within all these songs.
As far as the troops go, you've played for the troops. You've shown your unwavering support for the U.S. Soldiers. Can I ask you what your position is on the, not to get too crazily political, but how do you feel about the current status of our soldiers in Iraq?
Well, I'll tell you, I will explain that with a very, very clear illustration. When